Okay, welcome back, guys. So now in the first video, we talked about conversion factors, and now we're going to talk about two different methods, one using fractions specifically and one using ratio specifically by converting with proportions. So we're going to be using the conversion factors to help us solve now different problems, so different conversions. So, and again, this is just another way of how to do problems with kind of what we've been talking about. So they're just different formatting. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. We're just doing unit conversions, but with different methods. So first things first, we want to have the conversion factor. So again, this is something that I will give you if it's stepping out of um, the metric system specifically. So I will give this to you. Write a fraction then with the unknown x, so what we want to solve for, so what we're looking for, what the final answer will be, in the numerator, and the quantity that you were converting from in the denominator. And then we want to set up a proportion, so that proportion will be one side will be the conversion factor. So that's just the equivalent measurement between them. And then on the other side of the proportion, we're going to set up a fraction with the unknown quantity and then what's given. And then we want to cancel out the units that we don't need, cross multiply and solve. So let's look at it. So our first example is convert 2 teaspoons to milliliters. Well, first things first, we need to know the conversion factor. We need to know what is the relationship in general between teaspoons and milliliters. Where are they equivalent? And that is here. 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 milliliters. So with setting up a proportion of this being one fraction and then this being the second fraction, we can go ahead and solve. So remember the way that we set up the fractions, what you're converting to, that will be the top of the fraction. So we are converting 2 milliliters, so that implies that milliliters will be on the top. So if we have our conversion factor, we have 5 milliliters, and we know that that is equivalent to 1 teaspoon. So that is one side of my proportion. And now, if I set up my second proportion using just what I want to find, I want some X amount of milliliters that I know is equivalent to 2 teaspoons. And in this case, this is where we can cancel out units. We're done with teaspoons. I don't want teaspoons. My final answer will be in terms of milliliters because that is the desired unit that I want. And here in this case, then we can cross multiply. So we have 5 times 2 and 1 times x. Well, 1 times x is just x. And 5 times 2 is 10 milliliters. So there is our final answer. So we know that 2 teaspoons then is equivalent to 5 milliliters. And if you notice, that should make sense if checking, because notice 2 teaspoon, that's just double the amount of the 1 teaspoon we had. And if we know that 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 milliliters, well then notice if we're looking at double, then we should also have double of 5, which is 10. So that does check in, just a knowledge point. Okay, let's look at another example. Convert 75 pounds to kilograms. And in this case, we will be dealing with decimals and not whole numbers, so I will emphasize to round to the nearest tenth. So remember, we have to have the conversion factor, and we're going to set up a proportion. So what are we converting to? So we want our final answer to be in kilograms. So that will be the top of the fraction. So we have X amount of kilograms. We know to some it will be equivalent, some amount will be equivalent to 75 pounds. And now we can set up the conversion factor. So this helps us now solve. And again, I'm just switching the sides to show you that this is, because this is an equation, we can switch the sides. So you can either put on the left the conversion factor and then on the right what you want to actually solve for, or on the left what you want to solve for and on the right the conversion factor. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you have the order of the units correctly. And again, kilograms will go on top. Since that's what we're converting to. That's what we talked about in the first video. And then 1 kilogram is equivalent to 2.2 pounds. So now we're done with pounds. I don't want pounds. I want my final answer to be in terms of kilograms. So now we can, oopsie, that's not my laser. Now we can cross multiply. We'll have x times 2.2, so 2.2x is equal to 75 times 1 kilogram, that is 75 kilograms. And after performing this division, 75 divided by 2.2, we get 34.1 kilograms. And remember, we're rounding to the 10th. So there is more to this decimal, but it said specifically round to the 10th. So just one digit after the decimal. And that is our final answer. In the next video, we're going to be talking about some examples, but just using ratios. So of course, I won't specify on an exam how to do it. If you want to do this method, you could use fractions or ratios. Just make sure, obviously, you're familiar with just how to do it. So it's okay.